I am Ariane. This is Book Zealots December wrap-up, even though we're in January of 2024. Better late than never, right? I read 8 books, and this was the first book that I read for that month. I think it was actually a carryover from November. This was interesting. This is about a woman who inherited a lot of money from her father, even though part of his money went to his other children from a previous marriage. And she was basically a hermit. I forget how to pronounce her name. I had looked it up. Huguette Clark, and it's French, so however you pronounce that in French. And she was described as eccentric and shy, but I actually think she was, what's the terminology, agoraphobic? Is that where you're afraid to go outside? Is it agoraphobia where you're, okay, I had to ask Prometheus, he just walked in. I think that's what she had, and it just went undiagnosed. If it was even, I don't even know when that became described by doctors. It was a fascinating read. She was not good with money. She was very frivolous with her money in a lot of ways. She gave money to a lot of different people, but it was very odd in the way that she did give away her money. She was a strange cat. The book was fascinating, and she wasted a lot of money, and I guess she thought she could because she had a lot of money to waste. Anyway, fascinating if you like history and you like architecture and buildings, homes, that sort of thing. It was good. So that was technically for Historathon because it takes place in the latter part of the time period for Historathon. And also number 2, My Early Life, Winston Churchill, 1874 to 1904. I don't know that much about, or didn't know that much about, Winston Churchill. I also didn't know that he had written a fictional book, which he told his friends not to read, which I thought was hilarious because isn't it usually the other way around? If you write a book, you want everybody to read it. But no, he said, it's not good, don't read it. He was funny. He had a good sense of humor, which I didn't know. There's a lot of information in here about the Boer Wars. Part 1 and Part 2, mind you. Now that I have finished this, I can read his other one. I rearranged the shelves. I don't know if you guys noticed. Anyways, I think I have, Churchill right here. So that's my next Churchill book that I will be attempting. Then I went on a library binge because they actually had books that I wanted to read. Usually they don't. Now, at the beginning of the year, I wanted to read books from my own shelves. Didn't want to buy a whole lot of books. I will be going through this in a separate video. I did really well. And I had really cut myself off from checking out books from the library. So because I had unhauled more than 200 books for 2023, I thought, you know what? My library has these books. I'm going to check them out for the last month. And one of them was I Quit Sugar. And that was actually an ebook. It didn't age well. I don't recommend that book at all. The next one was a Christian book called Land of Silence. And once I'm done with this, I'll insert a little clip of my quick reviews on these books. The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning. Doctors from Hell was actually my book. Keeping It, fantastic. Definitely recommend that book. So good. Okay, so that was this one. keeping. My goodness. Okay. So Vivian, what?
Your book.
Yes, that's what I said. I said this is my book. Prometheus is saying, because I was originally talking about the library books, he didn't hear me say that this was actually my book. Definitely keeping this book. Prometheus, stop. Okay. So it was written by Vivian Spitz. She was one of the court reporters, you know, the stenographers. I don't think they had the stenographer machine at that point. I don't know. I don't know that history. However, she was the youngest court reporter for one of the Nuremberg Trials, and it was horrific. She had PTSD dreams from her job, from listening to this and seeing pictures and actually going to some of the camps and seeing things. And the reason why she wrote this was because of the few experiences that she had had with Holocaust deniers. And she was quite up there in age, I believe, when she wrote this book, and I'm very glad she did, and I am definitely keeping this. And yes, there are pictures in here, and actual the court documents. So that part is kind of, oh, this person, and then the prosecutor says this, and then this person, the witness says this, and so there's a lot of back and forth. But if you just read it, you know who's speaking. And then at the end, and it gives their sentencing. It's a keeper. Okay, the next one is a library book. The Boy on the Wooden Box, and that fits. So this obviously fit for Historathon. And The Boy on the Wooden Box is a memoir, and the man wrote it kind of from a child's perspective, but and clean, so not a lot of detail is given because obviously it's a children's book. So it's written from his perspective as a child, being written as a man for children. And he later became a speaker. Anyways, The Boy on the Wooden Box, his family was in close connection to Schindler, and it was a great book. It was a fantastic book, and if you haven't read it, or I hadn't even ever heard of it. I stumbled upon it. I don't even remember how. Really good book. Really good book. Cop Under Fire was my last book, and this one is also mine. And this one surprised me. This is by Sheriff David Clark Jr. If you think cops need to be defunded, you probably won't like this book. If you don't like facts or the truth or a cop's perspective or a Democrat cop's perspective, you probably won't like this book. Now, I find it very interesting because he says that he's only a Democrat because his parents and because of JFK. He's not a Democrat of today's party, which, whatever. Both parties are screwed up. Don't even get me started. Okay, now, this man has so much information packed into this teeny tiny little book. Towards the end, I was constantly underlining, wait, and put it down. Oh, wait, and I have to keep underlining it. Regardless, it got to the point where I told Prometheus, we are keeping this book. There's so much information in here that is not told to the general public, us, because of lamestream media. What was that quote from Mark Twain? If you read the paper, you're misinformed. If you don't read the paper, you're uninformed. You know what? It's probably safer to be uninformed. This book was phenomenal. This guy is great. I don't know that I agree with him on every little, detail, but from what he wrote in the, I think there might have been like one thing in here where I disagreed with him, and I don't even remember now what it was. He is a very good writer. I don't know, did he have a ghostwriter? Trying to check. Yes, he did have a ghostwriter. So Sheriff David Clark Jr. with Nancy French. It's like he's just talking to you and giving you the facts. And that's good, because there's a lot of information that we're told that is inaccurate, because there's a divide, a chasm that is being created, and we need to stop that, and we need to come back together, and we need to communicate. Are we going to agree on everything? No, we are not, but we need to find solutions, and fighting and arguing and yelling and screaming at each other is not going to get us there. Okay, getting off my soapbox, highly recommend this book. I don't care what political party you belong to, what religion you belong to, you should read this book. So good. Anyway, so 8 books for the month of December. It was a phenomenal month. I learned so much and about so many different things. So anyways, that's it. That's it, but I'll squeeze in my library book reviews. Hello, I am Ariane. This is Book Zealot. I have checked out a lot of books from the library for the month of December, and I wanted to get this recorded before I return the books to the library. And so there will be 2 parts to this December wrap-up. The first one that I read, The Boy on the Wooden Box, How the Impossible Became Possible on Schindler's List. It's a memoir by Leon Layson. I had heard about this book by accident. I don't even remember how I heard about it, but I am so glad that I read this book. I listened to it at the same time, so working on my auditory skills here, but this book reads so easily, and the hard parts are not dwelled on. It's a child's book, so it's written, I think, with that in mind. Now, this gentleman did a lot of speaking, and I would have loved to have heard him speak. And interestingly enough, he manages to get to California, and I'm thinking, oh, I wonder if our paths ever crossed. At 15, he looked like he was 10. And that's just horrifying. Bad things did happen to his family, even though Schindler helped them. And Schindler tried to keep the family together. If you haven't read this book, I think you should. It's really good. Now, have I read Schindler's List yet? No. Not yet. Okay, another one. The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning, How to Free Yourself and Your Family from a Lifetime of Clutter by Margareta Magnusson. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. This was a strange book. Now, I thought it was going to be about decluttering. It's more about the woman's memories. Now, she does give the advice of decluttering bigger items before things like pictures. Wait to declutter the very personal items. Save those for last. And work big and then work small. So work your way to the harder things. However, there was a section in here about her getting rid of her old dog because they were in America. The family was in America. They were moving to Sweden for the last time. Sweden has a 4-month quarantine for pets, and she didn't want to leave her elderly dog in quarantine for 4 months, and she didn't think she could find a family for the dog. So she had it euthanized. And then about 1 to 2 paragraphs later, she mentions that if she were to get another dog, she would want an elderly dog. If this weren't a library book, I would throw it. This woman made me so frustrated. Okay. I don't recommend that one. But if you've already read it, hey, tell me what you thought of it. Land of Silence by Tessa Afshar. Okay. This, I think, is the first, I don't know if it's a first of a series. I've never read Tessa Afshar. I've heard that she is one of those biblical Christian fiction authors, like a slew of other women. This woman wrote much better than some of the other ones that I've read. There were some parts in it that I had to roll my eyes. Like, come on, we're getting a little dramatic here. Or really? You would really do that? Okay, what I did like was the selflessness, which there's part of that is kind of eye roll. However, she was willing to give something up so that someone else could continue their life. So in the Bible, there's a woman with a blood issue. In the Jewish culture, they are considered unclean. And she was unclean for a very long time. And then she touches the hem of Jesus's robe and is healed. And this is her story. Obviously, we don't know her whole story, but Tessa Afshar's representation of this woman was good. It was well done. I liked it. I'm glad I checked it out. Now I can take them all back to the library. So thank you very much for joining us, and hang tight because we'll have the continuation. And then say see you later. Thank you very much for stopping in. Please leave a comment below. Let me know what you think of any of these books and what you read for December. Bye.